It's very helpful as a patient if you are acknowledged and by a kind word, a comment, a hello, eye contact. And it's because you're at your most vulnerable, you're at your most frightened, and there's a power balance that's completely unequal in healthcare, and understandably. So when there is a response that's directed to you, it makes you feel as if there's a bond between you and the clinician, and that is worth its weight in gold. It doesn't mean that you're friends or that they ask about your granny or, what you had for dinner, but it does mean that they're relating to you as an individual as opposed to a caseload. And that makes you a better patient. And it makes you feel more part of your care. I mean, it's not to the extent of nothing about me without me, but it does involve you in a way and make you feel that there's more than just the clinical expertise you're getting. You're getting care, and care is more than just a great operation. It's a whole lot about how you're treated as a person, as a full person, and it's the simple things. It's not big stuff. The big stuff, the clinical care is fabulous. Do it, but it's the little things. It's a kind comment. It's a smile. It's an expression of interest. I remember going in for one of my treatments, and the doctor said, "Wait, before we start, how are the wedding plans going for your daughter?" And I felt so good because he didn't just see me as his next, dot on the line. It made a world of difference. Everybody who goes into healthcare goes in for the right reasons. They're idealistic, they want to help people, they want to use their intelligence and skill to make a difference in someone's life, and that's very heartening. But what happens along the way, and I think I think they are trained in this, I think there are wonderful programs to help them with this, but I think the administrative overload, the pressure of time, the pressure of people, and I sometimes believe it has to do subconsciously with keeping some kind of a barrier between them and the patients so they don't emotionally get sucked into every bit of the things that are happening to others. I mean, it must be devastating on some days. I used to work in communications, and whenever we had a flurry around a terrible press release with a spelling mistake, and I'd say, whoa, no patients died on our table. Let's put everything in perspective. So along the way from the idea of being in medicine and the training to be in healthcare, it gets buffered out. Not for everybody, but for many people, and they are busy. So they're too busy to look up, and they're too busy to make eye contact, and they're too busy to acknowledge you. And it's really such a basic thing that you're asking for as a patient. It's like the triple A's, acknowledge the patient, ask what they need, and then act on it. And as long as you're acknowledged in almost every area of healthcare, it will make a difference. I've been in waiting rooms. And they don't call it a waiting room for nothing. I understand that, so I expect I will wait. I don't expect I'll wait 4 or 5 hours for an appointment that's been set. But what is fascinating to me is during that experience, I watched the whole group of people, the whole society of that waiting room, just furious and upset because they were backed up literally by 5 hours that day. And I was struck by the fact that the administrators sitting behind a glass wall could have and should have come out and said, "We're really sorry, something has happened, we've had an emergency, we understand we didn't mean to do this to you, it's your time as well, have a coffee," anything, rather than having everybody in the office come and yell at them. And by the time I got into the examination, I was sitting in the exam chair, and it was an eye clinic, so I was looking at the wall, and the doctor came in 5.5 hours late, and said to me, "Read the sign." She was looking at the files, and I said, "Whoa." And I didn't yell like everyone had been doing. I said, "We have to start over." And she looked up quite surprised. I said, "You should tell me your name, and I'll tell you my name. And I don't want to be your best friend. I don't want to go shopping with you. I just want us to have a relationship because I'm going to be your patient for a while." The tumor had given me double vision. My eyesight was in danger. And she was so shocked, and I said, "I've worked in healthcare. I know the pressure you're under, but I still think you should take the time right now to have some acknowledgement that there's a person in your chair." And we had a great relationship after that. I think that she was stunned because she was busy and she was under pressure and she was under fire and she was trying to deal with a lot of people. And you see that over and over and over again. It's an overloaded system, and people, need time and effort. But if you're in an institution that is not only treating a disease, but treating the people with the disease, it's a whole different sensibility. And I have found that in healthcare too. That's the good side. When you go and you feel that even though the outcome might not be what you want, if it's a cancer hospital, obviously not everybody's going to come out scot-free, but that everybody cares enough about your experience there to make this hideous situation as good as possible by acknowledging you as an individual. I think when you seek help from a healthcare provider, what you want is an honest assessment of your situation and some proposed solutions. And then most of all, you want them to care that it's working or it's not working, or that you're being treated appropriately, or that it's making a difference, or what else can we do. You don't want to have the appointment and then it's over, that the interest in you is completely done. And that's a hard thing. I think people with chronic pain kind of resist a paternalistic, maternalistic care package. But on the other hand, a professional can actually make that connection, as he would with any patient, or she would with any patient, that says, I hear you, what can we do? How can we make this a bit better for you? And also an honest assessment. I mean, the best clinician I saw said, chronic pain, it's an epidemic. We don't yet know how to deal with all of it. Here are the things I recommend for you. Let's try them, and let's in 6 months see how they worked. And if they don't work, we'll try something else. But I'm here for you anytime you want to pick up a phone and say, this is getting worse, come back. And I thought that was a really great approach, because it is all experimental. Everybody responds differently. I think there are some very difficult scenarios that play out in healthcare, and I think as a woman, your symptoms are so wide-ranging that they're often dismissed as it's stress. I've got headaches, I can't sleep, my head is pounding, I'm hot and cold, all those things. And I was told, you've got a big job, it's the stress. And I felt stressed that I wasn't handling my stress well. And I thought, oh no, I'm failing at stress management. But I think that a lot of people are comfortable articulating their needs and they're comfortable seeking help. If you're not, it's very difficult, because something like chronic pain can't be seen. You don't have a symptom that is visible. And so, I was worried that I would be kind of a whiny patient, talking about really my head really still hurts, and I didn't want to be a bad patient, and I didn't want to be a whiner, but I couldn't be more specific than that. I mean, I started documenting the different kind of headaches I was getting, but I think it is very difficult if you're dealing with a stereotype as well as this strange hybrid of symptoms that aren't visible and aren't immediately curable, if ever. So I think the stereotypes are very, very valid as a concern about getting the right care and getting heard and getting believed. So it doesn't look like you're just trying to get off work, or you're just lazy, or you have no initiative to deal with this and you don't have a positive attitude, and so much of health is a positive attitude. Well, that's blaming the victim in so many ways, because everybody wants to have a positive attitude about how they feel. Everybody wants to feel better. Nobody enjoys wrapped up in a dark room with ice on your head and feeling horrible and feeling like you're failing.